Over the last year, um, I have been learning more about compassionate leadership and heart-based leadership, and it has been a tremendous asset. And it's also something that I impart on our team as well, because it really takes sort of a holistic approach where you're, starting with the inside, how you are, how you're feeling, how you're coming in, and then how you're then giving to others. And in this field, I feel like that's incredibly important.
Allison, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. So why don't we give the audience a little bit of background about who you are and the work that you do currently today?
Mhm. So I am the Chief Executive Officer and the founder of Traina Behavioral. We're a company that provides ABA therapy to individuals with an autism spectrum diagnosis. And I started the practice 15 years ago with this passion to ensure that we're providing the best therapy services for our uh, our clients.
So 15 years ago, we started on this journey. Let's rewind a little bit further back. Are we doing this type of work? Let's talk a little bit about your origin story. Did you get exposed to this at an early age, or what brought us down this path?
I've always had an affinity for psychology, neurology, and just such a deep love for children. I'm a mother of two boys, and I always tell them, regarding careers, you got to do what you love. And I feel just so blessed that I get to do just that. So I started my career, I guess, in developmental psychology. I guess that would be kind of where it all started at Lehigh. So I love psychology so much they basically ran out of psych classes. So senior year, I just didn't have any other classes to take. So I got to take work in the lab at Lehigh, and it was a child development lab, and it was just really inspiring. And from there, it just kind of, I had that opportunity to, experience that, and it just fostered this love.
When it comes to being exposed to, psychology early, why was this something that caught your passion? Were you kind of into these type of things when you were younger, or was this something that you experienced just when you got into like higher education?
I think even at a very young age, I always wanted to understand and kind of figure things out, and as well as kind of helping and serving others. And I feel like psychology really, neurology, psychology, all these different fields it's just fascinating. So I always found that to be incredibly useful in trying to figure things out. And with that, being able to serve and provide to those who may need it.
And I think, it's easy for us to say that the field of ABA needs more support than ever. In our previous conversation, we talked about, when I first got working into this space and supporting some of my partners, it was 1 in 56 children being diagnosed with autism. Now that number is 1 in 36 children. So have you seen the landscape kind of grow in front of us as you've been in the space for the last 15 years?
Yeah, I really have. And I think it possibly could, continue to grow. But luckily, there are such wonderful services out there that can try to help with that.
When it came to starting your organization, what were you doing before this? So were you working with a different organization? You had an aha moment where you said, I think I can do this better, or I have a different perspective on this, or what was that like?
So I definitely worked in the field as a therapist and a behavior specialist, as well as helping others form their own company. Um, but I really felt like this was kind of the opportunity where I can take what I feel is useful, like empowering employees and, really honing in on that. So that's why I wanted to kind of start this company in the way that we have.
Now, there's a recognition that we all go from, which is we trade our 9 to 5 in for a 24/7, 365. So, what were the early days like in starting up the organization, realizing the challenge that was ahead of us? How did you kind of deal with that transition process?
Yeah, so I think because I have such a passion for what I do, um, it was really helping through those moments, right? Like any other business owner who's starting their company, you put those blood, sweat, and tears in, and you do a lot of it yourself before you're able to kind of outsource and get help from professionals that are really skilled in whatever area it may be, billing or otherwise. And I just think my love for this field really kind of fueled it. And I actually worked as a behavior specialist in the field for a very long time within my company because I love what we do and how we help others.
What was the process like of growing the team? On the podcast, often we talk about like the my baby fallacy, which is often when we're the founder, CEO of an organization, we think that this is my baby and nobody else is going to be able to do the work as good as we will. But in order to grow, we have to relinquish trust into others to help them execute on the vision that we kind of cast. So what was that process like for you?
I love that question. So our employees absolutely 100% make our practice. And for whatever reason, I feel like that might be missed with a lot of business owners. Um, Specifically, our clinicians are some of the best in the field. I could not be more proud of them. So, really recognizing that fact right there, and then ensuring that we're doing whatever we can to empower our employees, giving our leaders the skills that they need to support the clinicians, as well as, supporting the leaders too, the supervisors.
How has the process of growth been for you guys? Well, one thing I've recognized, I had an amazing conversation with another CEO. Her name was Portia James. She was out of California. And she said, hey, Keenan, since 2018, this space has grown by about 500%. And often when we think about how we're going to be able to meet the needs of the community, we often want to hire our way out of this. But when we hire quickly, often we see, I would say, clinical proficiency drop. So how have you kind of balanced that need to be able to meet the needs of the community, growing the team, but also making sure that there's clinical excellence in the work that you guys do to serve the people who come to your organization?
All right. So we definitely take a quality versus quantity approach. Whenever possible, I try to be the one that personally interviews the clinicians that are going to be coming into our company. And right up front, we're very honest about who we are, what we do, and our mission. So we're always ensuring that the people that are coming on know that they make our company, and that that this is the right fit. It takes a certain individual that we look for things like passion and willingness to grow, and then we have core values as well that we're
And
looking for in that
what are some of
person.
those core values?
So our core values are really wonderful. They really kind of speak to who we are as a company, and again, our company is our team. So our core values are integrity, drive, kindness, and teamwork. So with that, integrity is just that being authentic, right? Realizing like what your personal needs are, as well as how you can give back to the company. And then drive is that drive to grow. So we're an ACE provider. We of course do trainings in the behavioral field, but I also really like to ensure that we're giving trainings on leadership to our behavior specialists, and specifically compassionate leadership. So leading with heart, leading with the compassion for our clients and for the support staff that we have with us. Kindness is pretty self-explanatory, but incredibly important. And we are a team. It's not one leader in a company, or just it's all of us who make up who we are.
What does kindness mean to you? I would love to hear from your perspective. What does that mean?
Kindness could be many things, which is kind of why I think it's such a great core value. It's really taking that time with the client, going a little bit, taking that time to kind of slow down and have compassion for what we do, and really just always bringing the best you can into the field.
I love that. I might have referenced this in our previous conversation. There's an amazing guy out there. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk. He has a book that's called 12 and a half, which is the 12 and a half ingredients that leaders need to be successful in the future. The subtext of this book is leveraging the emotional ingredients necessary for business success. I want to get your opinion on how you kind of exemplify some of these qualities, if you will, that kind of come from this book. So the first one that we have here is gratitude. How do you think about gratitude?
Oh, that is such an amazing quality. Gratitude is how I live my life, and it's definitely what I bring into the company. And I'm just beyond grateful and humbled that I get to work alongside these amazing clinicians, and just that I get to do exactly what I do. Um, we're always grateful for the people that are the life changers in this field. And I make sure that they know that. And I think that, that they do.
How about patience?
Mm. Patience. Of course, you need to have patience when working in the mental health field, but of course with children, and typically work with children, but also patience for coworkers and having that compassionate latitude, right? Like that compassion for, okay, like we're all trying to do the best we can, and that's really what's important.
And the last one I want to talk about here is accountability.
Hmm. Yep. So accountability, it really goes along with that integrity and that drive quality that we have, being accountable for who we are on a like systemic level, like as a whole. So, you know, accountability of bringing the best we can into our work and being accountable for what we do and how we serve.
I'd like to know a little bit more about kind of what drives you as a leader of your organization to continue to show up and do the work that you're doing every day. Now, we know that you've had a passion for this since you were young, right? 15 years in this space, which is great. But one of the things that we often see is sometimes when we're on such a long mission, it's very easy to lose sight of the things that we accomplish along the way. And one of the things that I talk about often is the idea of our goals becoming horizons, right? We take one step towards our goal takes one step further away from us. How have you been able to stay grounded in the things that you've accomplished and the impact that you guys have had over these 15 years in being in business?
Mm, that's a great question. So, on a personal level, I'm always growing and learning. I think learning is limitless. Um, Everything from compassionate leadership coaching classes and just kind of expanding my horizons so that I can better give back to my team, as well as imparting a lot of that knowledge on our leaders and ensuring that everybody feels supported.
What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned as a leader over the last 15 years? If you could go back in time and have a conversation with Allison as she's just getting started on this journey, what would you say to her?
Keep doing what you're doing, keep leading with heart. It's so easy to get distracted by opposition, by competition, and lose sight of who you are as a company or what you stand for, your values. And I never did that. I never sacrificed quality for quantity or for whatever. And I just wanted to make sure that, you know, if I was going to tell myself, my younger self, I really would say you're doing it right. Just keep doing what you're doing and really be authentic and true to yourself.
That's a statement that's grounded in a sense of an unshakable confidence, because often in this maturation process of, being a leader of an organization, we often think we have to change and shift and become a different version of ourselves to accomplish the things that we want. But you're saying that you would just say, continue to do what you're doing like you've been on this path the entire time.
I would, because I think that I had such a passion for doing it with quality and doing it with heart. And because of that, it's always served us well. We have a great reputation both on the employee side and on the client side because I just won't sacrifice quality for quantity ever.
It's amazing. I want to talk a little bit about the idea of technology. So, we came from a place which I refer to as the before time, or at least I did. I was born in 1990, so I saw what the world was like before technology, right? Now we're in the world where things like artificial intelligence, automation, technology seem to be running rampant across the landscape of business. How are you kind of thinking about technology impacting, the work that you guys do, creating efficiencies? Is it a threat? What's your kind of 2 cents on the layer or the landscape of technology right now?
Yeah, I certainly don't feel like it's a threat. It's such a benefit. I mean, what's occurring is just better technology for anything from like assisted technology to help facilitate communication, just different platforms for efficiency, whether it be data collection or scheduling, stuff like that, like on the administrative side, or even just, you know, better forms of communication, better devices. But I don't think that learning is limit. I never think that learning is limitless, and there's not a cap to learning. So I don't think that technology will take the place of one-on-one therapy, but it will certainly help as a tool, a really useful tool. And it's wonderful that it keeps, getting better and better for our learners and the individuals that need it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to kind of see how the new version of our businesses will kind of continue to develop and change over the next couple of years, because even things like ChatGPT as an example, right, just came out of nowhere, but now it seems like personally me and my team can't live without these tools because they help us be more proficient, so we can do the higher leverage tasks like spending time having conversations or responding to the things that are really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The more efficient we can be, the more time and energy we can focus on bettering different areas, whatever that may be. Our focus will be on, you know, kind of increasing those areas. And I think that that really has helped us um, just be able to focus more on our employees and ensuring that not only are they getting the clinical training that they need, that they're also getting the support in other areas too, encouraging wellness and, not letting them choose how many cases they take on, but kind of guiding them in that, let's make sure you're not overwhelming yourself or having that burnout effect.
It is impossible to pour from an empty cup. And we talked about that a little bit in our last conversation together. You've mentioned a couple times that you believe that learning is limitless. What are some of the things that you've been intentionally learning over the last, let's say, year that you've really been focusing on?
Mm. So, over the last year, um, I have been learning more about compassionate leadership and heart based leadership. And it has been a tremendous asset. And it's also something that I impart on our team as well, because it really takes sort of a holistic approach where you're, starting with the inside, how you are, how you're feeling, how you're coming in, and then how you're then giving to others. And in this field, I feel like that's incredibly important.
What are those two things? To dive a little bit deeper and double click on that, compassionate leadership and heartfelt leadership. What are those things?
So it's taking the time to slow down and check in with where you are. So, kind of taking the time to, if I'm feeling a certain way, then to, really take the time to slow down and say, okay, if I'm feeling this way, is this the way I want to come in? Is, taking that energetic responsibility of how I'm showing up and slowing down. So, in other words, if you're kind of distracted or having issues in other areas and you're super in your head and busy, and then you have to go and meet with a client or a parent or to train a clinician, you might not be 100% there. And really, it's taking that time to slow down and kind of changing your focus and shifting where you're now coming in with heart and you're saying, okay, well, now I'm going to slow down and really take the time to hear the person I'm with, or ensuring that I'm coming into the session in a way that the other person is going to feel comfortable and supported. And I think that's incredibly important.
Why was this something that, you pointed your focus towards? Did you have an event where you said, I need to be more intentional in this space? Or did you realize that this was an opportunity for improvement?
I just think it was an opportunity for improvement. I'm always trying to improve, grow. And this was just such a fascinating arena that I stumbled upon and just loved so much. So
Did you ever play sports or anything like that as a child?
I did play
Uh,
tennis, things like that.
okay. Were you very competitive? Did you take like winning seriously?
I kind of didn't. I
Mm.
really didn't. I was more focused on kind of the team or the experience. So, whether it be tennis, lacrosse, or otherwise, kind of just spending that time with my friends or enjoying the team that I was in.
2 points here. So I was an athlete. I grew up. I played all three sports: football, basketball, baseball. Played baseball in college, and unfortunately, I got hurt and went through a process where I had to like re-find my identity because I was so dedicated to becoming a professional baseball player that when that dream didn't happen, I went through a really negative downward spiral. And I had a mentor one time talk to me. And he said, "You know what, Keenan? Someday you're going to have to choose to go pro at something other than baseball. So what is it going to be?" And then I found the the world of business and entrepreneurship. And I took that same competitiveness that I had playing on the field and applied it to the sport of business. And the beautiful thing about the sport of business, very much like you're talking about, is this season is a lifelong, meaning we can continue to develop our skill sets that we need along the journey to become the best leader, the best friend, the best supporter, the best teammate that we possibly can. And that was a dynamic shift for me, that I had to take that competitiveness out of sport and put it into something else where I could impact more people through business. What do you think about that?
I absolutely agree with that. Um, I mean, I feel like that should just kind of be a given. And it's amazing that so many different, so many people aren't realizing that, right? In business, learning is never going to end. It should really be something that we focus on.
It's a beautiful gift, but you have to take it in that frame of these challenges that come across. We are benefiting from our opportunity to apply ourselves to these challenges and overcome them and take the learning lessons out of these things, which is really powerful. One of the things that I've really tried to learn a little bit more about is how to be a better leader and showing up with intentionality. And you talked about that a little bit here today with this, heart-focused leadership, this compassionate leadership. I think it's so easy for so many other leaders of organizations, CEOs and founders to find themselves focused on so much that it robs away from the moment when we can pour into other people. And I feel like that kind of deserves for us to kind of circle back. Do you think that's been a huge element of how you've been able to build such a great culture in your organization? Is that intentionality?
Oh, absolutely. And it's true. You're juggling a lot of balls as a business owner. So it's really important to kind of have that focus, and not lose sight of those important things, right? Whether it be these core values or that heart-based leadership, all of these things that kind of set, the drive of why you kind of started it in the first place as well. I think it's incredibly important.
What do you think one of the biggest challenges that you've overcome has been in the process of building your team and organization and business?
I think the greatest challenge is, I think that we've been pretty fortunate where we were always kind of growing and learning. I think that probably the biggest challenge is to take these calculated risks, whatever they may be. So I say calculated because I'm very like conservative with kind of the way I approach business. Um, but I think, kind of trusting that jump would probably be something that I should have focused on a little bit more in the past.
But it's scary to take
It
those
is.
risks, right? When we have so much, I would say, responsibility for our team. There was an interesting conversation I was listening to. I was listening to a keynote from Jeff Bezos, who was talking about a culture of failing forward. Now, the example that he gave, I mentioned this on the podcast before, was Amazon spent $690 million trying to create what they called the Fire Phone. It was supposed to compete with the iPhone and the Google Pixel. And the one thing that he said was, in order for us to be able to make big changes, we have to take big risks. And unfortunately, a $690 million risk was something that we learned a lot from. He'll put it that way. Now, the things that came out of that failure was Amazon Alexa, so the voice little agent that we talked to, and the Kindle came out of that as well. It's really difficult to build a culture of people being willing to take risks, especially when there's so much on the line. So how do you think you can, in the future, encourage your team members to take those calculated risks like we're talking about, to do things differently, to be able to meet people where they are and serve your community better?
I think continued support is incredibly important, but also to encourage everyone to be their authentic self. So really kind of seeking deep inside them, what truly makes them, right? The individuals that are coming into this practice came into our company for a reason. They seem like they absolutely love what they do, and they are phenomenal, and they're very passionate. And really just kind of having them remember to kind of check in and be that authentic self, and to, check in with their heart.
I also feel like it's really important for our team members to recognize that they can be successful through working for our organization and our dream, right? The role of a CEO is to cast a vision so large that other people can find themselves being successful in our vision. And I feel like over the last years, especially, we've seen a negative connotation, if you will, with work. People say, I don't like working. I don't want to do these things. I want to find work-life balance. But if we recognize the commitment of time that we give to the work that we do every day, shouldn't it be a vehicle to help us accomplish our bigger dreams, professional and personal?
Hmm. I always said that true leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. And that's what we do at Traina. So we're always encouraging our employees to grow in multiple arenas, not just in the clinical field, like I was saying before. And I think it's always served us well. And I think it just really creates this kind of platform for our employees to come in and be their best and to feel comfortable, in their job role, whatever that may be.
What is on the front of your mind as a leader as we kind of start wrapping up Q4 here in 2024 and we get into 2025? What are the things that you're thinking about? Have you intrigued, interested, or starting to pay attention to?
I think that there's an incredible shift between kind of this idea of supervisor and then employees. Now it's more about building a culture and being a team. And I think if one of the things that our supervisors really should be focused on is how to be that great number two, right? How to best support those in within the organization.
And why is that something that you're focusing on?
I just think that creating a culture, well, you know, creating a culture is just how our employees are happy and enjoying what they do for a living. And that's really what's important because, again, they make our company. So if they like what they're doing, if they are feeling motivated and driven to keep growing within the field or with wellness or, all of these things, then they're going to come in and be their best self and be their best clinician and stay with the company because, they'll enjoy where they are.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful vision. I think I was having a conversation with my younger sister, who's also a co-founder in my business, and she just came back from a women's business conference in New York City. And one of the things that she was talking about, she was really inspired by a leader who was saying, your job as the co-founder, leader of your organization is to inspire other people to give 100% of themselves to the mission that you guys have aligned with. And when they can do that, they show up more fulfilled, they show up happier, they show up hungrier, but also their experience in working with you correlates to life in general. And you guys create memories together. It's very similar to creating the culture of trust and then aligning everybody and going towards the same type of mission. And I feel like that's been a big pivot that we're seeing across the landscape of business now. We've come from a place where employee turnover, the great resignation was super high a couple of years ago. People don't want to work for organizations where they don't feel supported and they can grow in. And I feel like when we have leaders like you who are pushing us in that direction, it's a beautiful opportunity for us to be able to change the landscape of work and how people kind of perceive the commitment that is work, which is investing into ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't tell you how reinforced I am by having that opportunity to do that. It's incredible.
What else should we be talking about here on the podcast that maybe we haven't talked about thus far, Allison?
It kind of depends where you want to focus. If you want to focus more on the clinical side or just on the cultural side.
Why don't you take it? What are you more passionate about right now?
So I think that the culture is super important. Having these core values and setting up systems to reinforce them, I think have been a really great asset. We have reinforcement systems within the company. So things like team tickets, where whenever we catch an employee exhibiting a core value or going above and beyond, we reinforce that. And then we also reinforce the supervisor that sought that out. And we'll do team building events like renting out an ice skating rink or a ropes course where, employees can kind of get to know each other. A lot of our employees are in the field. They're working in the schools or homes, so they're not necessarily in our center where they would be able to kind of sit and, have each other as support or get to know each other. Even our leadership team, I think some companies just kind of have BCBAs out there floating in the ocean by themselves. We definitely don't do that. We do BCBA forums every other month where we all get together. There's, of course, the learning piece of it, which we are an ACE provider, so it could be a clinical piece. But then also we have that, again, that leadership and that heart-based kind of training where we're checking in and giving them those tools. And they also have the opportunity just to be with other BCBAs and be supported with their, coworkers as well.
What was the first thing that you mentioned there? The reinforcement system. What was that?
Mm. So I think it's super important to have a reinforcement system within the company, and there are definitely challenges surrounding that within this field because we do have a lot of clinicians and BCBAs that are out working in schools and homes. So they're not always in the center, so we can't always kind of catch them being good, if you will, and exhibiting our values and our all these great things that we do at Traina. But so we do the best we can. So we have a ticket system where whenever we can catch them being good, as well as like I said, the supervisor who is reinforcing them will get a ticket. And at the end of the month, we have an employee come on, a different employee every month, and they pull a raffle ticket. And, they say who won, and then we have prizes that they pick as well. And then they also sit and they say what the company means to them. And it's really kind of emotional, actually. It's really beautiful to kind of hear what they're saying and about the company.
Names excluded. What are some of the examples of what people say about the company that make you emotional?
Mm. So they'll say it feels like growth, or they'll talk a little bit about that teamwork, that being supported. There are quite a few things that I've seen that made me really emotional, but for example, I'll walk into our center and I'll just see like sticky notes or like a big page that just talks about like why each employee has gratitude for the other, just and for the team or for the company. And I didn't tell them to do that. It's just another example of them being motivated to lift the other up. And honestly, I don't know if there's anything more beautiful than that. I'm so proud of them.
I mean, the culture that you try and instill often takes on a life of its own, right? And when our team members are advocating and innovating to be able to do that and spread that wellness and that goodness throughout the organization, that has to feel absolutely amazing. It's like a proud mom moment.
It really is, honestly. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like a mom. I feel like I'm kind of like just working alongside them, but it's incredible. It's super reinforcing.
What does the future look like? Let's cast a vision for, let's say, the next 5 years, right? Which will take us to 20 years of the amazing work that you guys have doing. What are we hoping to accomplish? What are we thinking about?
I hope that we just keep with that trajectory of growth that we've been on, and that we're always gonna never, I mean, I don't think we ever will, but just not sacrificing that, quality first for quantity, and just continue to grow. We want to serve as many, individuals as we can, because they're just like you said, there are so many that are in need of services, and there are a lot of wait lists everywhere. So just kind of, continuing to focus on quality, being authentic in who we are as a team, and just giving back with compassion.
That's beautiful. Any closing thoughts here that you want to leave on the audience about the great work that you are doing, or anything that people should be aware of as a leader who are tuning into this episode today?
I said it a few times, but I'll say it again. The employees make the company. They it's important for any business owner, any supervisor to recognize that and to really foster their growth and be a responsible, compassionate leader, and to just make sure that everybody feels valued. And again, going back to the idea of gratitude, I'm incredibly grateful for the individuals I get to work alongside. I'm incredibly grateful for what we've built as a team, and that we're able to give back to, individuals with an autism spectrum diagnosis and their family.
One of the traditions we have here on the podcast is we like to end by having our previous guest ask you a blind question. So the question today is, as a leader of your organization, what does courage mean to you in times of turbulence?
That is a good question. What does courage mean to me in a time of turbulence? Courage in a time of turbulence is when I feel a leader can really step up and shine, and when they really are needed to do that. So to me, courage is to continue to support and and stay authentic to your values and who you are as a company, who you are as a team, even in the face of, you know, fear or, whatever that may be. That's what courage means to me, staying authentic.
It's easy to be a good leader in times where everything is easy, right? But it's tough to be a leader when times are tough. And I think that you are the perfect exemplification of what it means to be a leader that demonstrates heart and hustle, Allison. I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute blast. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
That's a wrap, guys. Catch you in the next one.